I don't know if you know this, but there's an awful lot that goes into developing a video game. Though some titles are created in their entirety by just one person, most have armies of folks behind them. And to say that things don't always go smoothly down at the headquarters of some of our favourite studios is something of an understatement. Financial troubles, infighting, and prioritisation of other projects are all reasons why some of the most anticipated games get stuck in development hell. And even though developers may assure us that a title is definitely coming, we often get the distinct feeling that that might not be the case. For today's list then, we're looking at the games that have been in development for a while but show no signs of being released. All of these titles look incredibly exciting, and although we have everything crossed that they will one day make it to our consoles, let's just say that for several reasons, we're not holding our breath. I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are 10 upcoming video games that might never be released. Number 10. Deep Down. If there's one thing we love here at Team TripleJump, it's a bit of sword and sorcery, and we just know that if we do ever get our hands on Capcom's Deep Down, we'll probably have a smashing time with it. Deep Down was originally revealed in 2013, and should it ever make it to release, it will be a medieval dungeon crawler that focuses its attention on a group called the Ravens, who have the ability to recover historical memories by touching ancient objects. Think Assassin's Creed, but with more dragons. Upon its reveal, the release date for Deep Down was set to be sometime in 2014, but the year passed and console owners were seemingly no closer to getting their hands on the game. In 2015, producer Kazunori Sugiura revealed that the game was delayed as the concept was far bigger than first thought, but he didn't say when he expected the game to actually launch. Since then, it's been pretty quiet on the Deep Down front, and although the trademark has been extended, there's been no confirmation of when it's likely to be released, or even if anyone is still working on the game. Honestly, this one's probably not going to ever be released. I think we all know it. Deep Down. Number 9. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. It's been well over a decade since James Cameron's Avatar first appeared in cinemas, and ever since then, the world has been promised a whole host of Avatar media, including an open-world video game that's failed to materialize. The next movie is definitely coming out in December 2022 though. The sequel film, Avatar: The Way of Water, was due to be accompanied by an open-world action-adventure video game. First announced in 2017, Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora would see players taking control of the Na'vi and journeying across a yet unseen region of Pandora known as the Western Frontier, as they fight to vanquish the threat of the RDA. The game was supposed to be released sometime between April 2022 and March 2023, but in July 2022, the announcement came that it had been delayed, potentially until 2024. According to insiders, the issue is that whilst the game is looking very, very pretty, its gameplay mechanics are in seriously bad shape. With that said, games have suffered issues like this during development and still gone on to enjoy plenty of success. So whilst things aren't looking good for Frontiers of Pandora, it's probably not worth writing it off completely just yet. In fact, of the 10 games we're talking about today, this one's probably the best candidate for shouldn't really be on this list, but you know, I've just read out the whole entry now, so what can you do? It's a bit late. Number 8. In the Valley of the Gods. Following the success of their debut title Firewatch, the world waited with bated breath to hear what was next for Campo Santo, the Washington-based developer of the adventure title. We didn't have to wait long, as just a year after the release of Firewatch, Campo Santo announced In the Valley of the Gods, a game that was set to replicate much of what made Firewatch so darn popular. There would be mystery, suspense, beautiful scenery, and interesting characters. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Things did start to look a little rocky for In the Valley of the Gods though, when Campo Santo was acquired by Valve in 2018. But the studio assured fans that the game was still in development and would just be a Valve game instead. In July 2019, however, it was announced that In the Valley of the Gods had been placed on hold indefinitely, with head writer Sean Vanneman moving on to Half-Life Alyx instead. At the time of writing, In the Valley of the Gods is still on hold, though it hasn't been outright cancelled, so maybe, just maybe, we will see it get a release sometime in the future. Stranger things have happened, right? Number 7. Wild. Assuming it ever makes it out of the gate, Wild looks set to be a truly exciting gaming experience, one that I'm personally very excited for. Set during the Neolithic period, the game will see players taking on the role of a human with shamanic powers that can be used to control animals, which sounds and looks hella cool. Wild's development kicked off in 2014, with Rayman's Michel Ancel as director and writer, and his own company, Wild Sheep Studio, as developer. Reportedly, there were big plans for the game, including a huge continent-sized open world, the ability to play as any of the world's creatures, and weather that would change with the seasons. By 2015, trailers had been released, and the game looked to have a very bright future ahead of it. Following an update on Ancel's Instagram, though, things went rather quiet over at Camp Wild, and the next thing we knew, it was 2020, and Ancel was retiring from the games industry entirely to, well, quite fittingly, go and open a wildlife sanctuary. He assured fans that work on Wild would continue without him, but no one has heard anything official about the game since. Plenty of rumours of Wild's cancellation have circulated and even been outright printed by the press, but nothing official has ever actually been confirmed by the studio itself, and they still seem to be advertising for staff at the time of recording, so you never know, this one could still happen. Number 6. The Last Night. We come now to a game with more behind-the-scenes problems than you can shake a stick at. The idea for The Last Night was conceived in 2014 by brothers Tim and Adrian Saray whilst attending a cyberpunk-themed game jam. The pair spun up their own studio and planned to release the game in 2016. So far, so good. Sadly, things soon started going downhill. By 2016, there was still no sign of the game, and younger brother Adrian left the studio to focus on his own career. In 2017, Raw Fury came aboard to help publish the game, and at E3 2017, the game was featured as part of Microsoft's presentation. By this point, the expected launch was 2018. Not long after, old tweets of Tim Saray's surfaced in which he'd expressed anti-feminism and pro-Gamergate sentiments, causing some gamers to call for the cancellation of The Last Night. Saray apologised and on development went. However, 2018 then passed by and there was still no sign of The Last Night. Saray took to Twitter in late 2018 to reveal the game was delayed due to, quote, massive business, legal and funding issues, and didn't confirm a new release date. Since then, he's assured the world that The Last Night is still on its way, despite the departure of Raw Fury. If you say so. Number 5. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Upon its release in 2004, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines got something of a mixed response from both critics and players. Pretty much everyone was in agreement that its RPG gameplay and writing were both fantastic, but that the game was marred by a barrage of technical inadequacies. Even with all of its issues though, Bloodlines had its fans, and they've been crying out for a sequel for years. For the longest time, it seemed unlikely. After all, the first game was a commercial flop, and it wasn't until the IP was obtained by Paradox Interactive in 2015 that things started to look more positive for a potential sequel. The official announcement came in March 2019, with the release set to be just 12 months later. This was later pushed back to an unspecified date in 2020, then again to 2021, and finally to when it's ready. Oh, hang on, just give me a minute, I'm getting horrible cyberpunk flashbacks here. A number of things have factored into the delays, including the virus that shall not be named, as well as staffing changes and issues obtaining the development kits. All that being said, although Bloodlines 2 has suffered from repeated setbacks, Paradox CEO Frederick Vester took to Twitter in July 2022 to assure fans that it is still happening, so we'll just have to wait and see. Number 4. System Shock 3. It's been well over 2 decades since fans of the System Shock series have gotten a brand new game to sink their teeth into. Remasters are all well and good, but they just don't fully scratch that sci-fi itch. It's no surprise then that fans became hugely excited when a third game in the System Shock series was announced in 2015 to be titled System Shock 3. The sequel was to be developed by Other Side Entertainment, and following the release of a number of trailers, the hype train went thundering down the tracks full steam ahead. Sadly, not all was going to plan behind the scenes. The development team were let go as the game was severely behind schedule, and in May 2020 it was announced that Tencent were taking over. Although System Shock 3 has never been officially cancelled, and we haven't entirely given up hope, it's pretty much been radio silence ever since the switch in development team, so we're not exactly confident that the game will ever see a release. Still, if nothing else, we at least have the System Shock remake to look forward to, so chin up, eh? Number 3. Beyond Good and Evil 2. Rumours of a sequel to 2003's Beyond Good and Evil have been circulating for decades, fueled in part by its cliffhanger post-credits scene. Beyond Good and Evil was well received by critics and has gained something of a cult following, and so the only thing standing in the way of a follow-up was the fact that it didn't actually sell very well during its initial run. So, when fans were treated to a teaser trailer in 2008, and then a leaked clip of some definitely not actual gameplay in 2009, some of them dared to dream. And then, radio silence for almost a decade. It wasn't until E3 2017 that Beyond Good and Evil 2 was finally confirmed. However, this project was stated to be a prequel, and it was also made clear that the reveal of the game itself was considered day zero of development. Everything we'd seen up to that point was not attached to this new project. At the time of writing, Beyond Good and Evil 2 doesn't have a release date, nor has anyone from Ubisoft confirmed what platforms it will even release on. But the setting and style of the game were at least elaborated on several times in the first couple of years after the announcement. A further spanner was thrown in the works though when the game's director, Michel Ancel, remember him, left Ubisoft in December 2020 to set up a wildlife sanctuary, leaving the future of the title uncertain. The game made headlines recently after taking Duke Nukem Forever's Guinness World Record for the longest ever video game development time, though that figure does include the years spent working on the sequel shown in 2008, not just the prequel we're currently expecting. According to a financial report from 2021 and Ubisoft job ads posted as recently as a few months ago, there are still people working on Beyond Good and Evil 2, but when we'll actually get to play it is anyone's guess. And don't even get us started on the supposed Netflix show. Number 2. Metroid Prime 4. The Metroid series has been delighting players with its innovative genre-starting gameplay ever since the first title was released all the way back in 1986. Since then, over a dozen games bearing the Metroid moniker have been released, and the vast majority of them have gone down with players like a cool glass of lemonade on a warm summer afternoon, including the Metroid Prime trilogy released between 2002 and 2009. Since then, players have been clamouring for a fourth Metroid Prime title, and their wish was seemingly granted at E3 2017, when Metroid Prime 4 was announced. Since then, Nintendo have assured fans of the series that development is going well, but 5 years after the game's original announcement, we still don't have a release date. Originally, the game was being developed by Bandai Namco Studios, though those duties have since moved to Retro Studios, as the work produced by the former had, quote, not met Nintendo's standards, end quote. The most recent news from Metroid Prime 4 HQ came in the form of a job advert posted in 2020, seeking storyboard artists to work on emotional and interesting and innovative scenes that elevate the narrative. We're sure Nintendo will be back with more news when the time is right, but 2 years of radio silence doesn't exactly fill us with confidence. And number 1, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic Remake. When it was released in 2003, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic was considered a triumph by critics and players alike. It was the perfect blend of Star Wars lore and RPG gameplay, and fans have gone back to it year after year to revisit the story of Darth Revan. Being almost 20 years old though, it is starting to show some signs of aging, And so, in September 2021, it was announced that a remake of the game was in development. Unlike the original, which was developed by BioWare, published by LucasArts, and was exclusive to Xbox and PC, the remake has Aspyr and Sony Interactive Entertainment at the helm, and will be a timed exclusive for the PS5 and PC. The game is being completely rebuilt from the ground up, but the developers have promised that the story will remain largely untouched. Alas, although all of this is very exciting for fans of the original, all is not well down at KOTOR Towers, and following the departure of the game's art director and design director, the project has been put on hold indefinitely. Fingers crossed that the studio can sort things out and that we don't have to wait a long time for news of the game's release. And now, with regards to this title and all the other projects we've looked at today, why not place your bets in the comments section below on just how soon it will be for some of the information in this video to become totally out of date when some news is announced by some publisher or other. I reckon about 48 hours. It happens every single time we do a list like this.